we as marketers are losing those billions and billions of hours of consumer attention time that would have been available to us. Because we have been abusing it, consumers are moving away. And therefore, as advertising as we know it is dead. And we have to reinvent ways of how you communicate with consumers.
Raja, welcome to the Brand Innovators
Thank you very
podcast.
much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm excited to talk to you. We're kicking off 2025, and I'm sure you have a lot of exciting initiatives and things that are in your head. I'm wondering if you can talk about something in particular that's exciting you about the year ahead.
I think the speed with which AI is evolving is mind-blowing. It used to be AI. Last 2 years, it was Gen AI. Now it is agentic AI.
Right.
And people are already talking about AGI.
Sure.
So with all this happening, I think that's a space which is exciting me the most, at the top of my mind. But equally, I think augmented reality is slowly creeping up onto us. The whole concept of adding layers, either in the virtual world or in the physical world, it adds a complete layer of information that is useful and relevant to you as a consumer. That is slowly creeping up on us, and that's very, very exciting.
Yes, that is
And the last thing I would say is the advancements in the last, 24 months in the healthcare space is mind-blowing. It's all called functional health.
Yes.
And, I think that's an area which I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating.
It is also going to be really interesting to see the impacts that AI has on health.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And even people are uploading their scans and their CTs to AI platforms and saying, give me a recommendation. Like, who would have thought that the robots would be telling us how to? And
they do a damn good job.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have famously said, advertising is dead. And I wanted to just pick your brain a little bit on that. What do you mean by that?
See, put yourself as a consumer, not as a marketer. As a consumer, do you really look forward to seeing the ads? Not really. What you're concerned about is having a beautiful, seamless experience in whatever you are doing. So you are watching, for example, one of the video channels. Every 5 minutes, there is an interruption of my experience. And I am shown an advertisement which I just don't care about. And I have to suffer for 5 seconds before I say, skip now. So I'm not paying attention to the ad. But the advertiser is paying the video platform for showing me that ad which I'm not even looking at. And that's waste of money, number one. Number two, because people are skipping buttons, now channels have introduced a non-skippable 15-second ad and then a skippable ad after that. That's like taking consumers completely for granted. As a result of which, there is a lot of backlash from the consumers, saying that this is not how you really treat me. You are bombarding these ads. You talk about, as marketers, frictionless, seamless, delightful experience. I was having all that till you came along and messed it up for me. One example. Second, likewise, if you look at digital channels, somebody sends me a link for a article or whatever. I click on it. And then I go into your page, and onto the page, there are full of ads. And I'm reading, and I have to literally look for where my article is. The article ends after 4 lines, and I have to read further somewhere. By accident, if I touch something, I get shipped off to a different site altogether. And the X buttons to exit those is so small. When you click the X, you end up opening the site.
For sure.
This is bad practice. This is not how advertising is meant to be. This is not how marketing is meant to be. And it's getting a very bad rap. As a result of which, a lot of consumers, and hundreds of millions, the last estimate I saw was about 600 million people have put ad blockers on their devices. And the wave is much more significant in Asia. And then people are going to ad-free content, whether it is Amazon Prime or Hulu or Netflix, call it whatever. As a result of which, we as marketers are losing those billions and billions of hours of consumer attention time that would have been available to us. Because we have been abusing it, consumers are moving away. And therefore, as advertising as we know it is dead. And we have to reinvent ways of how you communicate with consumers.
And I think one of the things that you've done really well is pinpointing the communities and their passions and then aligning around those passions. Can you talk to me a little bit about that strategy?
Yeah. See, if you look at traditional marketing, one of the big concepts is about segmentation. So you talk about demographic segmentation, psychographic segmentation, and so on. When I was looking at the effectiveness of these, there was something which was fundamentally missing. And that's when we pivoted at Mastercard to what we call as passion-based segmentation. There are 10 passions that we focus on, like sports, music, philanthropy, shopping, climate and environment, movies, and so on. So we got 10 of them. Now, if you look at music, for example, I don't care what your age is. You might be 15 years old, you might be 50 years old.
Sure.
So long as you're attracted to that particular type of music, I will go. And I'm not excluding anyone. In fact, our segmentation strategy is inclusive by design. It's more about what you truly care about, which is what we call passion. If you're passionate about something, that's where we meet you. That's where we curate experiences for you. And that's where we subtly tell you about our brand.
And I think it's gone from an environment where we used to push ads to people to an environment where we were inviting them into more of a conversation. And I think that's an interesting place that we've pivoted to as a society.
Correct. We actually call it story making. Advertising used to be storytelling, whereas what the future, in fact, even the current, is all about is experiences. An engagement of consumers, giving them experiences that are truly meaningful, relevant, and compelling to them in areas that they care about.
Sure, and I think especially in the world where we're moving towards more AI and more digital environments and maybe even people being sort of less connected to each other, those points become even more important. Travel, sports, music, all the
Shopping.
passions, shopping
Absolutely.
becomes even more important.
So true.
Yeah. If I could pivot just to a little bit more on the personal side,
Sure.
I'd love to have an understanding of how do you inspire your teams to have this mindset and to think about the consumer in a different way and to be almost consumer first in the way that they're planning campaigns or planning, their marketing programs.
See, one of the things that we are trying to do at Mastercard, and firstly, I'm blessed to have an extraordinary team. We handpicked, and we have also inherited folks who have been around in the company and doing an extraordinary job. So the first thing that we try to do is to reorient them to the new realities through coaching, through training programs. For example, behavioral economics is a very, very important aspect of marketing, which many marketers don't use.
Right.
So we have a professor coming and teaching us behavioral economics every month, as an example.
Wow.
So that what happens is when they go through that experience, they say, oh, wow, actually, this can have these kind of implications in my marketing plans or programs or campaigns. And that's already changing the culture. So I can proudly say, and I interact a lot with my peers across other companies, we have one of the most dynamic, innovative, and even I would dare to say a visionary kind of a team that we are having. Learning is at the root of it all. We experiment, we test and see how things are. We fail fast because failure is inevitable. But then we are also quick to the market. Like, for example, we have got something called the Innovation Challenge, where on a given topic, we ask people to come with solutions, irrespective of where they are from. And it was so interesting that one person had come up with a concept for creating an accelerator for musicians or for aspiring musicians. We created that from concept to execution. It took us probably less than 12 weeks. And when they see it and the success of that campaign, a whole bunch of other people get motivated and inspired.
That's cool.
And everyone is sort of rallying around. Mm-hmm. So I would say today one of the biggest competitive advantages that Mastercard has, in addition to the brand, is our talent.
That's great. And you're getting people at the early stages, especially if you look at the musicians, the early stages of their careers, and then you're again aligning around that passion point, which is really cool.
Yep, absolutely.
If you had to give the young 25-year-old Raja a piece of advice, what would you tell yourself?
I would say that on the one hand, to pursue an international global career much earlier in life.
Okay.
The world is becoming smaller and smaller, and now it is truly a global village. And I left when I was, I believe, 32 years old, India at that time, and since then I've been traveling around the world and living around the world. I would have probably done it 10 years sooner if I have to. So that's one thing I would say as one of the biggest advices. The second thing is, I would say, network like crazy. Networking helps quite a lot. It's seeking mentors.
Yes.
People are normally good.
Yes.
They want to help. If somebody is reaching out and say, hey, I need your help, they're willing to help.
Absolutely.
People are basically fundamentally good.
Yeah.
But then we either are too shy to ask for help, or we are too much of an inertia. We say, it's okay, I don't want to. I think networking.
We're scared. We're scared. And what's the worst that could happen? Someone says no.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's just move on and ask somebody
Right.
else, right? So networking is something which is very, very critical. I would have said it, and I would have consciously invested in that at that point in time. And I think the last one I would have said is that to have a much better work-life balance right from early on. Because particularly in these professional careers, you become so single-mindedly focused on your career. You're in a rat race. You want to be ahead of the game. And that sort of lets you drop other balls in your life, whether it is your health, whether it is your family, whether it is your friendships, or whatever it is. And I think that the last and the most important advice is to say, lead a balanced life right from day one.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
I
you
really
very much for
appreciate
having me.
Yeah, absolutely.